I don't think one can entirely blame the Yakuza lifestyle for making Kirishima the way he is. He was clearly different, alone, and somewhat violent even when he was younger. I mean, that was the main reason why his parents had given him to his granduncle in the first place. And it's also the reason why he went to see Yoshino when he was just 11 years old. I always said that I like complex character, but Kirishima was a bit too different, and I really wasn't going to continue the anime or read the manga. But some nice people convinced me otherwise. So after reading the manga and everything, I think I kinda get what's wrong with him. Alright, so let's see why Kirishima is the way he is. Surely you know by now that Kirishima Miyama isn't your average anime main lead. He is what we like to call a morally grey character. He's so unhinged that you're never quite sure if you should root for him or just wish that Yoshino would choose her childhood friend. Yet despite all his chaotic tendencies, Kirishima had managed to capture the attention of a lot of people in the anime and in real life. Let's start with his childhood. Every character needs a backstory, and most of the grey characters have a tragic past. However, his childhood didn't have any major issues or any sob stories, because he was born into a family with ordinary, normal parents. So I think the only big issue was his loneliness, he himself, and his boredom. He was different from others, and maybe that's why he didn't have any friends. He was always the kind of a boy who would smile and say everything was fine, even when things weren't actually fine. So from a young age, Kirishima struggled to connect with others, and because of that, one day his father told him to get a friend or two, and Kirishima asked curiously how he could do that. So his father told him that if he shares interest with someone, they both could hang out and have fun, and since he liked karate, he should start with that. Kirishima tried karate, only for that trying to end up with him getting bullied by others, as he obviously beat the crap out of his opponent since he was really good at physical strength, and later in school, he also stood up to that same kid who was now bullying a girl. This led that loser and his friends to start bullying Kirishima as well, and at first Kirishima didn't react and chose to ignore it, not complaining to teachers or any other elder. He just took pictures of his bruises with a smile as he come back home. But after he was done letting them beat him, he turns the table, taking 2 baseball bats with him as he walked to them, asking them for a fight. And in the blink, he started to beat the crap out of them one by one. By the end, he asked one of them to use the bat he bought and hit him as hard as he could. Yeah, this proves that he was a masochist from a very young age. But if you look deeply into it, this could also seem like he just wanted to feel something, anything but boredom. It's funny how I'm sure he wasn't even 12 at that time and he was already manipulating his way through life, because later he got away with this violent act and didn't get much punishment for his sweet revenge since he had proved that they had beaten him up first. In short, his parents were normal and they tried their best to raise him like a regular kid. But things went down the hill as Kirishima himself had a completely different approach to life. It went so far that they literally have to give him away to his granduncle, Gyaku Miyama, because they couldn't handle the kid anymore. Honestly, I don't blame them, but still, he was just a child. Maybe they could have done a better job. As for his granduncle, he gladly took him in because he saw the potential in him and decides to keep him under his wing. He was a Yakuza himself, so he and his way of care were pretty strict, which often led to Kirishima being beaten up by his people as a punishment for breaking the curfew or any other Yakuza rules. This didn't stop him from breaking them though. Instead, he began to enjoy the punishment, as we see in the anime how chill he was about breaking the curfew and roaming around in danger. And it's not like he enjoyed breaking rules, because he said that he never broken a school rule in his entire time there. It's like he enjoyed the punishment that comes afterward. It's weird, but I think that maybe he does this because he thinks it will make him stronger or something. Anyways, soon his life with his granduncle too starts to get boring, as he wouldn't even give him much money, saying that he needs to make money by himself. And instead of getting a decent job like any normal teenager boy would, Kirishima thought that it would be a good idea to have friends with benefits instead, which led to him getting into all those adult things. He thought it was alright as long as he got what he wanted, whether information or money. I think he started those beneficial relationships because of Yoshino, since he wanted to see her. Back when he once asked his granduncle who his friend was, Gyaku told him about Yoshino's grandfather, and Kirishima said without hesitation that he too would want to be friends with him. But he couldn't really become friends with an old man, so Gyaku told him about his friend's 11-year-old granddaughter, who was Yoshino. Right there and then, Kirishima set his mind to finding her and becoming friends with her. So he saved up money in different ways and finally visited her. But unfortunately, due to a typhoon, he didn't really get the chance to meet her. It's sweet that they go way back and it's like he fell first type of story. But the twist is he doesn't really understand the meaning of love. So it's frustrating to see him be interested in her so much, but at the same time being with others so openly. He grew up as a teenager who was already on a red spectrum and was already a bit emotionally unstable. And after joining the Yakuza, he got worse than any better. As time went by, he turned into someone who could handle the brutality of Yakuza world, torture people, plot crimes, all with a smile. He wasn't exactly living his best life, but he continued. And after he grew up a little, he made a promise to Yoshino's grandfather that he would protect her at all cost, since there were some people who were after her. Flash forward and we come to the beginning where her grandfather acts like he's setting her up with his friend's grandchild. After that chapter, it makes sense to how he reacted toward her in the beginning too. He has seen and kind of known her from far away and desperately wanted to meet her, without realizing that he set his bar too high. He wanted her to be his friend and wanted her to share same interest as him. Good thing that it actually happened though, cause she might not be as crazy as him, but she also understands the Yakuza lifestyle, and she's also easy to talk. That's why they both end up talking for hours. For me, I think it's definitely a match made in heaven or hell. And if there's one thing Kirishima know how to do, is to hide his true emotions behind a killer smile. As I said, whether he's charming his way out of trouble or torturing someone to death, that smile never wavers. Still, he got this weird, almost childlike side when it comes to Yoshino. He's hopelessly in love with her, or at least that's what he thinks, and goes into extreme length to get her attention. For example, there's a time when they're traveling to school on a train and she asked him to stop looking at her, and she kept on staring. And he suddenly starts saying all these random things about her right side being vulnerable and a little slow than her left side. When she finally gets interested in the topic, he tells her that he's lying and that he just wanted her to look in his direction. Yeah, I admit he can be a little cute sometimes, but no matter how crazy he might appear, it would be safe to say that he have a soft spot for Yoshino. I mean, he bought her a cake right after torturing a guy to death. Weird, but that's okay since it's a dark romance. And it's not just that, he also buys other gifts for her at random moments. And the fact that she affects him more than any of his friends ever did. Maybe that's why he ends up talking about her with them too. It gets awkward, but that's how it is. And not to mention the scene where he starts panicking because she was ignoring him for too long. I don't think this part is animated yet, but I really loved reading that in the manga. Alright, it's time to address the elephant in the room, Kirishima's love for pain. He enjoys both inflicting and receiving pain. Here's 3 major examples of his masochist moments. Number 1, getting a knee surgery without anesthesia. Because why not? Number 2, telling Yoshino to beat him up like it's some kind of a romantic gesture. Number 3, suffocating captives and joking that they would enjoy it as much as he does. Though I think his masochism isn't just there to exist, I think it may be his coping mechanism since childhood. Because in a world where trust is a luxury and betrayal is the norm, Kirishima might just use pain as a way to feel something, anything that's real. Despite knowing how much he loves pain, hearing him say that he would never hurt Yoshino was a bit nice, until I remembered this scene. But even if the worst case scenario happened and he did let his intrusive thoughts win, I'm sure Yoshino would already have a way to handle him. Because if Kirishima is a hurricane, Yoshino is the eye of the storm. She's the one person who can match his intensity without losing herself in the process. As someone raised in the Yakuza family, Yoshino isn't easily intimidated. In fact, she spent most of her time trying to outsmart Kirishima, and surprisingly have done it on some occasions. Their dynamic is anything but healthy. He's overbearing, intrusive, and sometimes downright scary. But there's also a weirdly compelling chemistry between them that you just can't ignore. It's visible that Kirishima genuinely starts to care about her, even if his method of showing it are unconventional. And I mean, it's a Yakuza romance, and this picture clearly shows their mindset. And Yoshino also knows and understands this mindset herself. Still, over time, we see a glimpse of softer, more vulnerable Kirishima. He starts to open up to Yoshino, sharing pieces of his past and making an effort to consider her feelings. I also love how he would do her hairs randomly and put his time and effort into learning learning hairstyles for her. He might be a sweet talker, but with her, his emotions feel genuine. And as for his promise of keeping her safe, he literally stick to it like it was his only purpose in life. I mean, by the end, we see him jumping off a fourth floor building to get her away from this very good-looking guy who is currently worse red flag than any other man there, and how he said that he would wish to die in a place where no one could find his body. So in a way, his death will be unconfirmed, and he will be considered as missing, thinking that it might keep her safe, because if anyone tries to come after her, that uncertainty might be enough to stop them from trying anything, as they won't know for sure if he was dead or still alive. So he's really going to stick to that promise, and who knows, maybe in later chapter he will end up becoming the greenest flag, and stop messing around for once, because by the end they are officially in a relationship. Anyways, it's messy, it's toxic, but it's also weirdly entertaining. And for the reason why I can't say that he's the worst character ever written, it's simply because he isn't. The writer wrote him with a lot of colors, so he isn't a bad written character, but rather a character made specifically for people who like psychotic, crazy personalities, or enjoy watching or reading characters with red flags. So now I don't hate him much because of how the writer gave him his complexities. He's not a cookie-cutter romantic lead, and I think that's what makes him so interesting. He's dangerous, unpredictable, and morally ambitious, but it's not like he's a monster, as he also have a very deeply human side, especially for Yoshino. He's intelligent, observant, and surprisingly caring for her. In many ways, Kirishima challenged the traditional idea of what romantic lead should be, but he's not really the type of guy you would want to date in real life. But he's obviously the guy who'll keep you glued to the screen. His imperfection makes him interesting, and his dynamic with Yoshino adds a layer of suspense that's rare in romance anime. Honestly, I love to watch action with romance where the female lead isn't as weak or has an I can fix him mindset. So if you know some good action romance anime, please let me know. That's it for today. I hope you get to know him a little better. If you haven't, maybe try reading the extra chapters of manga. They really made me see him a little differently. Alright, thank you for listening to me. Take care of yourself and goodbye.